Hello, this is Jessica with On a Stack of Books, and today's video is my reading wrap-up for January, and I am very happy to say that I have stuck with and had a good start my reading intentions. I picked a book from one of the 12 that I wanted to work through, and I read a hardback, so we're off to a good start. So the first book was The God of Small Things, and this is set in India, and the main characters are twin siblings. They're fraternal twins. Rael is the girl and Esta Happen is the boy, and they call him Esta. The structure of the story is like past present, and we get both Rael's and Esta's perspective at different times. They are extremely close. They share some of that twinny odd behavior where they know things that they shouldn't know. They sense emotions about each other, for each other. And so their family members recognize that, like, you know, they'll just know things about each other that doesn't really make sense. The parents end up divorcing when they're quite young, and the mother has them, but then she does end up sending Esta away for many years. And so the story is mostly about the twins' life and the fact that they've been separated, and then when they come back together. They experience a trauma that they call the terror, and it was horrific, and it was definitely a terror. But within within the community and the culture, this is in India, the mom's childhood and her family, there was this thing about, there were people that were the touchables and the untouchables, and it was based on religion and different classes of people, and it was literal. The meaning was, like, if you were a touchable, then, you know, for you and your family it was normal behavior, but an untouchable, they literally could not touch you, and that was super offensive and could be, you know, you could be beaten or arrested or something. I mean, it was just, you know, it was crazy. But as time goes on, those things change, but change is very, very slow. And so the mom, a lot of her family still feel the same way about the touchables versus the untouchables. Her children in that generation, they have no concept of this. And so they know, and they see the adults in the family they say that they'll say the small things, but not the big things. That they learn that they're not allowed to love certain people, or they're not supposed to love certain people, but they don't really understand why, and it's not explained. But it's a heartbreaking story. Nobody really wins. So that is, and this was by Arundhati Roy. So, The God of Small Things. So we'll put that there. So then the next one is my first hardback, and it was The Fourth Wing. So I will just say that I understand the hype. I know that this was and still is very popular book series. I enjoyed it. I did. Violet is our main character, and I really liked her. She was likable. She was believable. She had, realistic faults and weaknesses. There were things logistically that they dealt with and addressed and handled in a believable manner. They are at this school. They're learning how to be fighters, riders, and they're riding dragons. And she is very petite. She's very tiny. She has weak joints. And so to realistically believe that she would be able to sit on a dragon that's massive and then hold on and have the strength to hold on, or even be able to physically, hold on, they address it in a very believable way. So I appreciated that it wasn't like ridiculous. But you know, she failed. She tried again. She surrounded herself with good people, and she did her best. My issue with her character was that she was almost too good. She was so selfless and, you know, willing to sort of sacrifice herself for these other people that she deemed more important, even her perceived enemies. Like, she just, you know, it was almost like, okay. Sometimes it was a little bit much. Of course, it is a romantasy. That's a big part of the book. And that's fine. You know, when I was younger, I loved that because I think I was that age, and you sort of get swept up in the romance of it. I liked Xaden. I liked the character. And their whole build up to their relationship, I enjoyed it. But it's, you know, I think I liked the dragons more than I liked that part of the book. It was fine. You know, you read through, it's fine. It's part of it. It's good. I loved the dragons. I loved that element, their personality, the dynamic of, you know, the relationships with the people and everything like that. So I thought it was great. And now my daughter is reading it, so even better. She's almost done with the first one, and so that just makes it that much more fun for me that she's reading it as well. So since I had the second one, I figured I'll read the second one. I'll read Iron Flame because I have it, and so I may or may not, I may say, oh, I did 2 hardbacks for January, so I don't have to do it for February. We'll see. But I had this one, so I enjoyed it. I will be honest, when I was reading it thinking, I'm not going to read the third one. I don't have it. If I get it, I'm not going to actively try to get it. I was just like, eh. And these are chonkers. They're like 600 pages. They're like each of them are about 600 pages, I think, or close to it. So they're big books, but there's a lot of fighting, a lot of battles. The odds are stacked against them, all of that, you know. And so after a while, you're just like, okay, I get it. And okay, so with this one, not so much the first one, but this one, because now they're, they're flying on their dragons. I'm going to say that it is really important that you pay attention to the map. Geography is not my strong suit, and it's important to understand the story and to understand, like, the distance that they're traveling back and forth on these dragons, because of course they can travel fast, and but when you really think about it, they did a flight for 18 hours straight. So my brain goes to, like, all right, so she's strapped in, so maybe, I guess, she could lean forward and get a little bit of sleep, but like potty breaks, like eating, snack breaks, like, you know, like the human basic needs. You got to go to the bathroom. You're going to get hungry. You have to sleep. Like, so it was a little bit like, okay, because she, you know, flies off and it's, you know, several hours on the back of a dragon. Lost me a little bit there. Okay. So, and again, I'm thinking realistic, and it's not, but I'm thinking, like, you're doing this, they're fighting, they're practicing, and food is, like, hardly ever mentioned. And I feel like they should have been eating tons and tons to, you got to feed the muscle. They've got to maintain what they have and then build strength and get stronger. And that was a big part of it, is that she had to train. She had to get stronger. And she worked very, very hard. And they hardly ever talk about her eating. She made mention a couple of times that, like, she was glad she didn't eat so much because, you know, she was nervous or her stomach dropped or whatever. And I'm like, okay. But I get it. I get why these are so popular. And so, like I said, I was kind of like, I'm going through it and I'm enjoying it, but I'm not thinking that I'm going to get the third one. And then the very end just grabs you. And the very end changed my mind. And I want to read the third one. I definitely want to read the third one. So I'm going to have to find it. I'm going to have to get it one way or the other at some point. I'm going to get it. And then, when my daughter gets through this one, that may motivate me to get the third one. So we'll see. So that was that. And then the last one is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This was our book club book. And this is a post-apocalyptic novel set in America. And it is a father and son traveling by foot, walking, following a road. And there's not a lot of information given. It is very bleak. It is, and I guess that is enough explanation in itself. But for me, I wanted more information. I wanted more backstory. I wanted to know what happened leading up to this. But I guess if you're talking about the apocalypse, like, okay, it's the aftermath, and there is like scarcely any other people around. Okay, hardly any other people around. And they are starving, they are freezing, they have minimal supplies, and they are traveling. They are trying to get to the coast, but we don't know why he thinks he wants to get to the coast. We don't know what's at the coast. It seems like the son is young. I would even say like around 7, 8. Somewhere, we don't know, but just based on the conversations that they have and the interaction that they have, he's still very much a child that you can give an explanation to without going into too much detail, and they'll just sort of accept it. If you tell them something, they're like, okay. But so the story in itself is very raw, very bleak. Right now it's cold outside, and again, in the story, they're freezing. So as I'm reading it, I'm thinking like, okay, when I go outside, I've got on boots, I've got many layers, I'm bundled up, and I'm still cold, and it's miserable, and you just want to get home to your warm bed or a hot shower or something hot to eat. And they just don't have this. And so, then you just start to like, it's miserable. It's miserable. Complete side note on this story. When I ordered this book, I ordered it off of thrift books, and I opened it, and I was not expecting there to be so much notes written in it. And I was like, okay, so somebody annotated while they read. They made notes. And I was irritated when I first got the book because I was like, ugh, I just wasn't expecting that. And I know because I went and looked on thrift books, and they accept books. If you sell your book to them, they do accept them with notes written in them, because I looked it up because of this. I was like, how could they resell a book like that? But you can. So I was irritated. But the funny thing, the twist is that as I'm reading through, because this book in particular, I had a lot of questions, and I felt like we didn't get a ton of information. So you're kind of going along this journey with them. You have questions, and you're just like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what happened, and I don't know what's going to happen. It ended up feeling to me like I was doing a buddy read with somebody, and they were having some of the same questions. They were having some of the same thoughts, or they would bring attention to something where I was like, oh, I didn't notice that, like, in the beginning, everything was gray. And so it ended up being a pleasant experience for me to read this book and read the notes that somebody else had written. I have no idea. That handwriting if I had to guess, I want to say it looks like someone young. Looks like something my kids would write. I guess that's why I think that. But this is I wouldn't expect somebody too young to read this. But middle school, high school, I guess. But I was pleasantly surprised that I actually enjoyed reading it and reading their notes and kind of reading it together. It was interesting. It surprised me because, again, my first take was that I was very irritated. So I don't write in my books. If I take notes, I have the sheer Post-its, and I will, if you're gonna write lines underneath, I have the sheer Post-it notes, so you can do your line and you're not actually writing on the book. You can write your little notes, or I have the little tag so I can go back and look at that page again. What was it on that page that, so I'm curious if, what everybody thinks about. I'm sure everybody has an opinion one way or the other, because you either do write in a book or you don't write in a book. But if you were to come across a book, would it deter you from reading it if somebody had written in it? Would it distract you? I thought it was going to be very distracting, and it was okay. Didn't bother me. So this was the 4th book. So it was a good reading month. Again, I'm happy to say that I'm off to a good start. I've read a book from my 12 that I picked. I've read a hardback. And so, we're off to a good start. So thank you for watching. And until next time, I'll be reading.